So I'm Pat McGovern. I'm principal here at Bowery Capital. Bowery was founded in 2013 by our managing partner, Mike Brown. He had been at AOL Ventures. I think Fund One was heavy New York focused, but the portfolio today is basically 1/3 New York, 1/3 SF, 1/3 everywhere else. We're B2B specialists, but within that, there are definitely types of companies we gravitate towards. I think when you look at the recent investments, most of where we're spending our time is either horizontal application or infrastructure layer software that's selling into call it Fortune 1000, landing at 75K to 200K ACV. Another big bucket is vertical software. Now, vertical AI is the new branding, but industry specific software applications. That's where I spend most of my time personally on the team. So think of that as, Toast and Procore are like the two kind of big publicly traded success stories, but anyone that's building software for a particular industry and trying to build a system of record or platform that someone in that industry can run their whole day through. And obviously, vertical software, we've been investing in it since 2013. I think it's had a big kind of new, renewed level of interest due to AI, because AI really kind of expands the TAM of what these companies can do, solve some of the problems they've had around kind of hitting a limit on ACVs they can command, because can get into human capital budgets. Also, AI service is an area we're spending a lot of time. So you have companies that are kind of using a different pricing and delivery model where we're selling some kind of output almost on a per piece basis. So probably the most well known of these is Even Up, right? They sell a demand letter to plaintiffs' attorneys. That's a document they put together to ask the defendant for money on behalf of their client. That takes time and takes attorney billable hours. Even Up is using a throughput model where you pay X amount per demand letter. So things like that are interesting too, where I think the SaaS model has run into some challenges. So people are thinking about what are other ways to, switch up how pricing and delivery works in the software, landscape. So I feel like most desk things, including VC, are at some.
Yeah.
Will have. I mean, I think people are not going to go away, but I think just companies will need fewer people. What does that mean? I don't really know.
Yeah.
I think physical stuff, like you look at physical intelligence. This company, Lockheed Groom, and I think some of the OpenAI people started this company. They're trying to build robots that can interact with LLMs and do stuff. This thing can barely fold clothes, right? It's impressive, but I think physical stuff will endure. I think most desktop jobs, you're just gonna have less headcount, which will be challenging for junior people to get in industries. It'll be challenging, societally. But I think the technology today is not capable of being an HVAC repairman or really doing, I guess Waymo's driving and stuff. But in terms of when you see the humanoid robots that are powered by AI, we're 20 years from them being
they're not
useful. So I think tangible stuff will endure. Everything else, I don't really know. I think there's the expression you're betting on the horse or the jockey. At pre-season seed, the horse isn't really built yet, right? It's all you really have is the team, and they have some very thin product, and they have a very big vision. So a couple things for vertical software. I want the person either to be in for horizontal too, either from the industry, have some kind of deep lived knowledge of it, or be a really smart student of the industry. Not everyone has to come from whatever sector they're building software for, but have done a ton of research. When I ask someone, oh, this is the legacy incumbent, what do they do in revenue? They have no idea. I'm oh God, this is not good. So have deep domain expertise in the category they're trying to disrupt. I think also have just a really big vision. I mean, most startups are not going to work out. So you should aim really high and hope you at least get, half of the way there. And then selling ability. So most of our startups, and this is basically in vogue today in general, is founder-led sales. So you want to be not hiring AEs really until Series A, probably. The CEO should be selling. So I need to believe the CEO can sell, $10,000, $100,000 contracts to get us to $1 million to raise a Series A, right? So I need to feel they have the ability to be a salesperson as well as, product visionary, technical visionary. But if they can't talk well about the product, be charismatic, convincing for a direct sales motion, if it's PLG or something or open source, maybe matters less. But that's the main thing that I'm thinking about beyond team, market size, and just their grit is just can they sell? Sometimes founders will do the oh, and if it doesn't work out, we can sell to this strategic.
Yeah.
I think generally that will turn investors off because they want to see you have the interest in, getting to 100 million plus in revenue and building a really big company. I think a lot of times founders will say that to try to make the VC feel like better, but for a VC, like selling for 10 million is
it's not
terrible
worth
outcome.
it. It's a bad outcome.
It was a bad use of like one of the shots on goal the fund had. So don't just try to say we've got a big vision. Don't say here's the off ramp because we haven't even gotten started yet.
Yeah.
Everyone knows there's an off ramp. The VC does too, but I'd say so. You don't need to put a price in your deck. Just put the round size. Price is probably a function of that, but you can maybe get some wiggle room. Like don't box yourself in and say, oh, it's at 10 or it's at 12 or it's at 20. I would say I'd say probably raise that smaller round, that like 2 million, 1.5 round. If you don't really know what you're doing, if you're like pre-product, pre-revenue, unless you've got some really strong signals that you're gonna be able to like be off to the races, maybe go a little smaller at first. But again, at the same time, you're probably gonna have to hire more offshore engineers if you raise 2. If you raise 5, you can hire more onshore AI engineers. These people are very expensive. So like there's pros and cons to all this stuff. There's no one right answer.
Yeah.
Try to get intros to firms, honestly. Like I'm open to cold stuff, but most people are not. So I feel like try to get an intro. I think a lot of firms are pretty anti-cold inbound, which I think is dumb, but these are just things that exist. Also, like you kind of have to be shameless as a founder and as a VC. So just like cold email in general, find some connection and then get introduced that way. Yeah. I think also some VCs use it as a filter of like, how are you going to sell this stuff if you can't even get like one introduction to me, right? How are you going to get some CISO to take a meeting? Like, not a perfect proxy, but there's some of that.